The arena screens detonated with a red breaking banner as rain rattled the roof. Maya Carter said, "Tell me this isn't real." Victor Hale said, "Stay beside me." Lena Brooks said, "You need counsel now." Detective Aaron Rua said, "Neen's Carter will need a statement." Trent Wallace said, "Sources allege race fixing and foundation fraud." The crowd shrank back as sirens braided through the night. Maya said, "My foundation feeds kids, not rumors." Victor said, "We manage optics first." Lena pressed a USB into her pocket like it might burn through. Ruiz watched the metal tremble in Maya's hand and took a measured breath. Outside, camera flashes cracked like dry lightning and painted her face with judgment. Ada Nora Bennett said on a live feed, "Evidence links accounts to illicit transfers." Jasmine Lee said, "You didn't do this." Owen Price hovered by the SUV and didn't meet her eyes. Maya said, "If this is a nightmare, someone wake me." A gavel struck on a split screen, and the sound crawled down every hallway. The first reveal landed heavy. Maya wasn't just caught in scandal. She stood at the center of a crime none of them had imagined. Sirens stitched the tunnel as steam hissed from vents, and old victories ghosted the concrete. Victor said, "Stay close to me." Lena said, "You need a lawyer, not a podium." Ruiz said, "Knees, Carter, the withdrawals are in your name." Maya said, "Our accountant can confirm the purpose." Trent Wallace murmured from phones, performance enhancers tied to her foundation. Maya felt the metal heat like a coal in her palm. Jasmine said by text, "I'm outside if you need me." Owen paced near the service door like a man measuring distance to safety. Victor said, "We control narrative, or it controls you." Lena said, "Numbers don't bend for narrative." Ruiz lifted a palm and calmed the cluster with quiet gravity. Maya said, "I've run toward every finish line in my life." The tunnel swallowed the words. The rain seemed to answer with a brittle hiss. The air tasted metallic, as if headlines had a flavor. The chant of her name rose from the stands and came back changed. It sounded like a verdict rehearsing its first breath. The rumor avalanche began with Trent's velvet knife of a sentence cutting the feed. Trent said, "Signatures travel where money wants to hide." Maya said, "My signature doesn't move without me." Victor said, "Clerical errors happen under pressure." Lena said, "They happen at 2:13 a.m. when tablets switch hands." Ruiz told a uniform, "Clone the drives and seal the room." Jasmine said by voicemail, "You're not alone, even if it feels like it." Owen stared at a smear of oil on the garage floor like it could confess. Maya said, "I built the foundation to keep kids from choosing between hunger and hope." Trent said, "America, look closely at the paper trail." The timeline devoured her image, digesting it into opinions. The arrows on the graphics pointed like accusations with perfect angles. Victor said, "We call the board and stall for clarity." Lena said, "Truth doesn't stall." Maya felt the floor tilt and kept standing anyway. Outside, drizzle stitched neon across asphalt, while Jasmine jogged tight circles to bleed panic. Jasmine said, "You didn't do this." Maya said, "I run to the line, not from it." Victor said, "We will manage optics and timing." Lena said, "Optics don't balance ledgers." Owen hovered by the SUV and watched police lights comb the rain. Ruiz said, "We will need access to personal devices tonight." Maya said, "Then let's do it now." Trent's voice leaked from a passing phone like smoke under a door. Nora Bennett said on the courthouse feed, "Further inquiries are underway." Maya's name rolled through the crowd with a new edge. Victor said, "We shut this down before morning cycles." Lena said, "We open the books instead." The parking lot felt like a stage set after the play ends. Props remained. Applause did not. Maya lifted her chin and chose not to blink. The night pressed inward as Nora Bennett's measured voice rolled across portable speakers. Nora said, Evidence ties controlled substances and fraudulent transfers to the foundation accounts. Maya said. No. Victor said. We dispute the premise and the process. Lena said. We need the backups and the dashcam. Rui said. Preserve every byte and bag every device. Trent said. The narrative just mutated. Jasmine said. You breathe, I'll handle the calls. Owen said softly. I have something you should hear. Maya said. What did you record, Owen? He looked at Victor and then at the ground and did not answer. The gavel clip replayed with a cold echo that settled under her ribs. The past few hours felt like a fall without gravity to measure distance. Victor said, I will fix this. Lena said, maybe you already did. Maya gripped the metal as if it could anchor a sinking ship. The storm finally had a name. It was hers. Sunlight hit cracked asphalt as a teenage Maya sprinted past rusted fences, lungs pulling fire. Her coach yelled, again. She laughed again. Poverty was weight, running was escape. She dreamed of gold medals when cupboards were bare. Kids along the fence cheered. Go, Maya, she thought. One day they'll see my name on TV. She ran until her legs trembled, sweat carving paths on sunburnt skin. A college scout leaned against a dented sedan, scribbling notes with cautious hope. Maya's mother waved from the porch, apron dusted with flour, shouting, Dinner soon, baby. Maya yelled back, I'm not done. She promised herself she wouldn't stay here, not forever. The scout said quietly, full ride's possible if she keeps this up. The coach grinned. She will. The street smelled of cut grass and oil stains as dusk settled orange on corrugated roofs. Maya whispered to herself, this is my way out, chest heaving under a thrift store jersey. The whistle blew again. Her legs answered. The day the city first called her America's Lightning, banners snapped above a roaring parade. Maya said, feels unreal. Jasmine, grinning, hugged her. It's real now. Victor Hale appeared with camera-ready charm, whispering, I'll build you an empire. Lena Brooks, clutching schedules, said, we need to pace interviews. Maya laughed, sunglasses hiding sleepless eyes. Crowds pressed against barricades waving flags. Kids on shoulders screamed her name. Reporters shouted questions drowned by brass bands. Confetti stuck to her sweat-damp hair like bright snow. Victor told a photographer, get her with the skyline behind. Jasmine handed her bottled water, drink before you pass out. Maya yelled over drums, I trained in alleys for this. Someone yelled back, now you own the streets. The mayor shook her hand mid-float, grinning for cameras. Victor's phone buzzed non-stop. Sponsors, agents, headlines birthing overnight myths. The parade rolled on, victory tasting like sugar and spotlight. At a gala glittering with champagne light, Victor slid a folder across white linen. He said, your foundation, your legacy. Maya, sequined gown catching chandeliers, said, for the girls who run where I ran. Lena read fine print, lips tightening but silent. Owen Price, driving them later, heard laughter through tinted glass. Donors clinked glasses, promising futures with half smiles. Victor told a senator, she's the face of tomorrow, voice smooth as marble steps. Maya whispered to Jasmine, feels bigger than me. Jasmine said, that's because it is. The band played soft jazz no one really listened to. Victor kissed her cheek for photographers, murmuring, history loves firsts. Cameras snapped lightning across crystal centerpieces. The MC said, to the fastest woman in America? Applause rose like champagne fizz. Outside, Owen started the SUV. Headlights washing over red carpet rolled thin by night. Weeks later in the softly lit studio, Maya told America, running saved me. Now I want to save others. The interviewer nodded gravely. Off camera, Victor whispered to Lena, this will double donations. Lena said, or double scrutiny. Trent Wallace introduced the segment on air, calling her the champion with a conscience. Jasmine, watching backstage, texted Maya, "Proud of you." Cameras rolled over framed photos of smiling scholarship kids. On it, Maya added, "Every medal I own means nothing if no one eats." Applause followed, polite but genuine. Victor adjusted his cufflinks, already planning tomorrow's headlines. Lena flipped through press kits, noting which quotes would trend. The interviewer rapped with, "America loves second acts." Maya smiled, small and tired, thinking, first acts break you before they make you. Lights dimmed between takes. And then Victor checked his phone again. At Maya's penthouse celebration, Lena set down a cake shaped like a track lane. She said, "To the girl who outran gravity." Maya raised her glass, "To family." Victor leaned in, murmuring, "To forever." Jasmine snapped photos near floor-to-ceiling windows, where the city glowed below. Owen collected empty glasses, moving quietly as always. Laughter bounced off marble counters. Outside, camera flashes sparked through tinted glass, paparazzi like moths to flame. Maya sliced cake, frosting smearing like victory war paint. Victor answered a call in the corner, voice low, face unreadable. Lena watched him through candlelight, suspicion faint as smoke. Maya hugged Jasmine. "Next year, bigger." Jasmine smiled. "Next year, brighter." Owen closed curtains against lenses, still hunting their moment. Somewhere below, sirens wailed too far away to matter yet. For now, champagne drowned them out. The first rumor slithered out like smoke before a blaze. Trent Wallace said on live TV, "Whispers suggest Maya Carter's foundation isn't as pure as her medals." Maya slammed her phone. "That's garbage." Victor Hale said smoothly, "We'll threaten to sue." Lena Brooks muttered, "Threats won't balance the books." Ruiz told his partner, "Where there's smoke, there's usually a crime scene." Sponsors began calling, their voices polite but sharp as razors. Jasmine said, "Ignore them, Maya, focus on training." Maya said, "I've worked too hard to let gossip erase it." Victor said, "We control the narrative before it controls us." Lena glanced at spreadsheets, frowning. "The numbers are off." Ruiz circled dates on a whiteboard, his pen strokes tight. Trent's voice purred on another broadcast. "This may be the scandal of the decade." Maya whispered, "I'll run through this storm like every other," even as the ground began to tremble beneath her. A flashbulb caught Maya exiting a side door of a clinic with a paper bag. Trent's voice bled through car radios. "Supplements or something stronger." Maya snapped, "It's just anti-inflammatories." Victor shielded her with an umbrella. "You deserve privacy." Lena whispered, "The prescriptions came through the foundation account." Maya froze. "That's impossible." Ruiz studied timestamps on surveillance photos, murmuring, "The same night as those wire transfers." Jasmine, watching the news through her phone, "Lies." The crowd around the clinic murmured, cameras clicking like locusts. Victor tightened his grip on Maya's arm, forcing a path through shouting reporters. A tabloid cover hit stands before they reached the car, Maya's face captioned, "Golden Girl or Golden Lie." Inside the car, Maya's hands shook. She whispered, "They'll crucify me before truth gets a chance to run." In Maya's kitchen, a podcast blared. Former trainer claims Maya wasn't clean. Jasmine hurled her phone. "They're lying." Maya's fists trembled. "I don't need shortcuts." Victor rubbed her shoulders, soothing, "We'll crush the smear campaign." Lena sat at her laptop, whispering, "Something's off with these donor lists." Owen stood in the garage doorway, silent, eyes on the floor, like it might confess. The refrigerator hum filled the tense silence between shouted words. Jasmine said, "Say something to the press, Maya." Maya replied, "They don't want truth, they want blood." Victor said, "Well, release a statement carefully worded." Lena muttered, "Careful won't save us if this goes deeper." Owen shifted, keys jangling softly in his pocket. Outside, camera flashes burst against curtained windows like distant lightning. Maya exhaled sharply. We need to get ahead of this now. The accountant's resignation email was only 2 lines, effective immediately. Irregularities too significant. Maya slammed her fist. Find out why. Victor snapped. We'll replace him. Lena said. We needed him. Ruiz sat with a nervous donor asking, Did you authorize this amount? The donor shook his head, trembling. Never that much. Trent's voice over a live feed said, The cracks aren't rumors anymore. Maya gripped the edge of her table until her knuckles whitened. Jasmine whispered, Maya, this is spiraling. Victor's phone buzzed. He stepped into the hall, whispering urgently. Lena's throat tightened, suspicion growing like a bruise. Ruiz highlighted documents under a desk lamp, muttering, This isn't sloppy, it's intentional. Outside, tabloid vans lined up like vultures waiting to feed. The call came after midnight. Maya answered groggily. Hello? A flat voice said, Check your Foundation portal. She opened her laptop and froze. Rows of wire transfers at obscene amounts. She whispered, Victor, what is this? Victor appeared in the doorway, hair tousled, operational costs. Lena, looking over her shoulder, hissed. At 2:13 a.m. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears. Victor said, We'll fix it quietly. Lena snapped. Quietly means cover up. Owen appeared behind them, startled by shouting. Maya's vision tunneled as headlines she hadn't read yet formed in her mind. Someone's using my name, she said, voice breaking. Victor's face was unreadable. Outside, a siren passed, its wail briefly drowning the room. The screen glowed cold blue against Maya's tear-filled eyes, showing her signature like a weapon aimed back at her. The interview room was cold enough to sharpen breath, and paper edges looked like blades. Ruiz said, The e-signatures match your biometric profile. Maya said, I didn't sign those. Victor laughed softly. We really doing theater today? Lena said, Her tablet was with you that night. Silence spread like oil. Owen cleared his throat. I drove him after midnight. Victor's eyes narrowed. You confuse errands with evidence. Ruiz slid photos across the table, neat as scalpel steel. Maya said, Tell me you didn't sell my name. Victor said, I protected value you kept risking. Lena whispered, You moved money, not air. Ruiz said, Chain of custody is clean. The fluorescent hum became a metronome counting trust in reverse. Maya felt the metal in her pocket like an anchor made of lies. The room smelled of stale coffee and fresh betrayal. Victor smiled with no warmth and waited for the storm to take shape. Across town, Trent said, exclusive. The driver speaks while sirens braided through glass towers. Ruiz told his team, execute the warrant and image every device. Maya stared at Victor and whispered, Please say you didn't do this. Victor said, I saved you from yourself. Lena said, You dosed her supplements. Victor said, I stabilized performance under medical oversight. Owen muttered, I heard you on calls about pills. Ruiz texted, Go, and hallways filled with echoing boots. Trent purred, the empire trembles. Maya said, You turned my legacy into a ledger. Victor said, Legacy requires liquidity. Nora's message flashed on Ruiz's phone. Judge cleared the search. The elevator doors opened on Victor's glossy office and reflected a future cracking. Maya pressed her palms together as if prayer could unwrite ink. Somewhere a paper shredder started, late to its own funeral. On an evidence table, a quiet catastrophe unfolded line by line. Ruiz said, Shell nonprofits receiving your funds, then betting accounts. Lena whispered, He laundered hope into odds. Maya said, I built this to buy shoes for kids. Victor said, You built reach, I built reality. Jasmine arrived breathless. You made her a target. Victor said, She was already prey to wear and time. Ruiz tapped a ledger. Dates align with spikes in wagers. Maya felt gravity tilt. as if the floor had decided to leave. Lena said, the donor list is salted with ghosts. Jasmine said, you knew what those pills did. Victor's gaze stayed calm, unfazed by their heat. Maya said, you wrapped a guillotine in satin. The room held a hush that sounded like judgment loading the chamber. Paper didn't scream, but it knew how to condemn. Owen said, there's dashcam audio, and the room leaned toward the screen. Road hiss filled speakers. Victor's voice floated in, if the pills keep her racing, the sponsors keep paying. Maya whispered, you said you loved me. Victor said on the recording, I loved what we could be. Ruiz paused the file, letting the sentence bruise the air. Lena said, that's premeditation. Jasmine said, that's cruelty dressed as care. Victor shrugged, context matters. The waveform crawled forward like a lie refusing to die. Maya said, you drugged my trust. Owen stared at the floor, guilt pooling like oil. Ruiz said, this binds motive to method. Victor's smile was thin as receipt paper. The dashcam beeped, patient and damning. Outside, rain began again, polite as a curtain falling on a scene too honest to applaud. By twilight, microphones crowded marble steps like metal flowers. Nora Bennett said, new charges include fraud, controlled substances, and coordinated betting. Trent breathed, this story just detonated. Maya swayed, then steadied. Ruiz said, cooperate, and you help more than yourself. Victor, cuffed but immaculate, murmured, you still don't know the half. Lena said, then start talking. Maya said, show me where the bodies are buried. Nora added, we will follow money and medicine. Reporters shouted questions that sounded like thrown stones. Jasmine squeezed Maya's shoulder, fierce and silent. Victor smiled for the nearest lens, hunger wrapped in charm. Maya looked past him to the city that crowned and devoured. She said, I won't run from this finish. The steps seemed longer than any track she'd known. Twilight held its breath and waited for the next siren. The arrest hit at noon under a hard white sun. Maya said, do the cuffs help your story or just your ratings? Victor said, everything is a story if you sell it right. Ruiz said, step forward, Miss Carter, nice and easy. Lena said, no statements until counsel is present. Jasmine said, I'm here. Breathe slow with me. Trent, said America, this is the reckoning you feared. Sirens stitched the air while cameras fenced the sidewalk. Maya said, I built lanes for kids, not for this circus. Victor said circus money built those lanes. Ruiz said, Mr. Hale, you will face your own questions inside. The cuffs clicked like tiny verdicts and the crowd swallowed doubt. Maya lifted her chin and walked toward the doors of judgment. Heat shimmer rose from the asphalt like a mirage of mercy. Reporters jostled, their booms poking the sky like spears. Owen waited by the curb, hat crushed in his hands. Jasmine locked eyes with Maya and counted the breaths. Trent narrated into the lens with preacher calm and polish. Lena tracked each badge number like a ledger of power. Maya said, I will not confess to a script you wrote for me. Ruiz said inside, process will replace spectacle. The courtroom smelled of polish and panic. Nora Bennett said, State versus Maya Carter, charges read in full. Maya stood, wrists free now but future bound. Victor leaned close, whispering, stay silent, stay perfect. Lena hissed, he's protecting himself, not you. Ruiz sat 2 rows back, pen scratching like rain. Trent streamed live commentary, voice smooth for viewers. Jasmine held Maya's bag and dignity in the same grip. The judge said, order, or we clear the gallery. Nora's voice built charge upon charge like bricks on a tomb. Maya said softly, I ran miles to escape walls, not build new ones. Victor smiled faintly, hiding panic behind veneers. The jury foreman stared with tight-lipped curiosity. Outside, thunder rehearsed its timing against distant glass towers. Dashcam footage rolled under courtroom lights. Ruiz said, audio from March 15th, unaltered. Victor's voice on tape. Keep her running, keep the sponsors happy. Maya closed her eyes, fists tight on the table edge. Nora said, the defendant heard this for the first time last week. Trent whispered into his mic. Nation, listen carefully. Lena said, that voice sells medicine as salvation. Jasmine stared at the waveform crawling like a heartbeat across the monitor. Victor leaned back, smile gone, eyes flat. The judge said, play the rest. Tires hissed, papers shuffled, someone coughed too loudly. Maya said, that voice broke more than records. Silence followed like an unwelcome guest that planned to stay. Nora said, the state calls Owen Price. Owen shuffled forward, cap in his hands like a confession. He said, I drove them, I heard him plan the withdrawals. Victor muttered, disgruntled staff always talk loud. Lena snapped, truth screams louder. Ruiz said, tell them about the pills. Owen nodded. Boxes, no labels, her name on the receipts. Maya stared at the floor, nails biting her palms. Trent whispered into the mic, juries love drivers. They see everything. Nora paced slowly. Did she know? Owen shook his head. She believed in him. We all did. Victor's eyes flicked toward Maya, unreadable. Thunder landed on the roof like judgment rehearsed its cue. The verdict slammed like a starter pistol. Guilty on counts 2, 3, and 5, the foreman said. Maya exhaled but didn't break. Victor's smile cracked at last, thin as ice in thaw. Nora said, sentencing to follow next month. Trent announced, the Empire falls tonight. Viewers. Ruiz closed his notebook, slow and final. Lena touched Maya's arm, whispering, you can still run forward. Jasmine wept quietly into her sleeve. Victor looked at Maya, voice low, you think this ends me? Maya said, it ends what you built on my back. The judge hammered once, twice like coffin nails driven home. Outside the rain stopped as if it had heard enough. Maya's mansion stood hollow, windows dark as shuttered eyes. She walked through rooms that once roared with celebration. Jasmine said softly, feels like a museum. Maya said, more like a tomb. Lena followed, cataloging items for auction. Ruiz stood near the door, hat in hand. These assets cover some restitution. Maya touched a framed photo of kids holding medals, her voice breaking. They didn't deserve this fallout. Victor's trophies remained boxed, his name on tape scrawled coal. Owen carried a crate past, whispering, I never thought it'd end here. Maya said, neither did I. The silence pressed harder than the scandal's noise. Rain streaked glass like the house itself was crying. Jasmine said, we'll rebuild you. Maya said, maybe just me, not the myth. Ruiz nodded, truth's quieter, but it lasts longer. Outside, the press lights had gone dark. Inside, a single lamp burned, holding off total night. The training track lay abandoned, weeds sprouting between faded lines. Maya stood at the starting block, sneakers damp with morning dew. Jasmine said, you don't have to be here. Maya said, I do. She crouched, breathing memories of sweat and hope. Victor's voice haunted the wind, echoing, keep running, keep paying. She growled, not anymore. Lena stood by the fence, murmuring into her phone about legal cleanups. Ruiz leaned against his unmarked car, watching quietly, giving her space. Maya exploded forward, sprinting a perfect curve, body remembering what spirit had almost forgotten. Jasmine clapped through tears. That's the Maya I know. Maya finished and collapsed on the track, laughing through exhaustion. Ruiz said, sometimes we run to win, sometimes just to survive. Maya said, today both. The sun cut through clouds, thin and hesitant like a truce. A quiet diner hummed with clinking cups. Maya sat across from Ruiz, hands wrapped around coffee like a lifeline. Ruiz said, Victor's appeal will drag out for years. Maya said, Let him rot in red tape. Jasmine brought menus, smiling weakly. First breakfast we've had without cameras. Lena joined them, sliding in late, whispering, "Funds are nearly secured for restitution." Maya said, "The kids first." Ruiz nodded, "Always." Owen sat at the counter, sipping silently, hat low, a ghost among the living. The waitress refilled mugs, and didn't ask for autographs. Maya said, "Feels strange being just a person." Jasmine said, "Maybe that's the point." Ruiz said, "Heroes are built in headlines. Humans are built in kitchens like this." Laughter bubbled, fragile, but real. Outside, rain had stopped, leaving streets slick and shining. Victor sat behind glass, prison blues replacing tailored suits. Maya faced him through the divider, hands steady. Victor said, "They'll forget this, they always do." Maya said, "Not this time." He smirked, "You're nothing without me." Maya said, "I was everything before you." A guard stood near the door, watching. Victor leaned forward, voice low, "There are still pieces on the board." Maya met his stare, "I'll play cleaner than you ever could." Victor laughed, cold and hollow. Ruiz, waiting outside, checked his watch, patient but wary. Lena reviewed papers in the hall, ensuring no slip in the process. Jasmine stood near a vending machine, glancing through the glass at Maya, proud and afraid. Maya rose, pressing the phone down. "This visit is over," she said. Victor called after her, "The game never ends." She didn't look back. That night, Maya returned to the Foundation's rebuilt office, now stripped of luxury. She lit a single candle beside the mission statement plaque. Jasmine said, "The first donations cleared." Lena said, "Transparency reports go live tomorrow." Ruiz leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. "City Council will back you." Maya smiled faintly. "The kids will run again." Owen, in the corner, quietly handed over a shoebox of salvaged mementos. Maya opened it. Medals, letters, a photo of her young self sprinting dirt alleys. She said, "This is why we fight." Jasmine hugged her fiercely, "And why we win." Ruiz said, "Tonight's a quiet victory." Outside, a single siren passed without stopping. Maya blew out the candle, whispering, "No more shadows." The darkness was peaceful for once. The city woke beneath bruised clouds, headlines screaming Maya's name. Trent Wallace reported, "From champion to cautionary tale." Maya stood on her balcony, robe wrapped tight, looking at the skyline that once celebrated her. Jasmine said, "Ignore them. Today is about moving forward." Maya said, "The world's moving. I'm standing still." Lena brought a folder of new Foundation approvals. We rebuild block by block. Ruiz arrived with coffee, public opinions thawing, slowly. Maya flipped through the pages, eyes heavy with scars of war. "I didn't fight to be adored," she said. "I fought to matter." Jasmine hugged her tightly. The hum of traffic below felt like a living crowd, ready to cheer or condemn. Maya whispered, "Let them watch. I'm not running this time." The storm clouds split just enough for a pale sunbeam to strike her face. At a local community track, children gathered, laughter bubbling against crisp morning air. Maya handed out new sneakers, her name absent from every label. Jasmine said, "They don't need to know your story." Maya smiled, "Just their own." Lena coordinated volunteers, clipboard flashing under sunlight. Ruiz leaned on a fence post, arms crossed, keeping watch without intruding. A little girl asked, "Do you run too?" Maya knelt. "Every day. Want to race?" The girl grinned and took off, giggling. Maya chased her, joy pounding in her chest like it used to before medals and cameras. Jasmine whispered to Ruiz, "She's healing." Ruiz nodded. "Some scars teach you where to run." A breeze carried laughter across the field, dissolving tension like salt in water. Victor's sentencing filled the courtroom like a final storm. Nora Bennett said, 20 years, no parole." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Victor smirked. "History forgets faster than you think." Maya stood in the back, silent. Rui said, "Your empire's gone." Victor replied, "Empires rebuild." Lena whispered to Maya, "Don't let him see you break." Maya said, "He already broke me once, never again." Nora's gavel struck, final and sharp. Cameras flashed like lightning through the chamber. Jasmine held Maya's hand, grounding her. Victor was led away, still grinning for unseen cameras. Maya whispered, "Smile for your cage." Outside, the courthouse bell tolled, counting the years he'd spent behind bars. That evening the foundation reopened quietly, no banners or cameras. Maya said, "Let's keep it simple." Jasmine smiled, "The work matters, not the noise." Lena unlocked the doors, warm light spilling into cool night air. Ruiz handed over a certificate, City's full approval. Maya touched it gently, as though it might vanish. Children's laughter drifted from inside as they explored new classrooms. Owen placed fresh shoes on shelves, redemption in every pair. Maya whispered, "This time, no shadows." Jasmine said, "This time, no Victor." Ruiz said, "We'll guard this space." The sound of sneakers on polished floors replaced the clamor of trials and headlines. For the first time in months, Maya breathed without pain. Late that night, Maya stood alone at the track, moonlight painting silver lines. She whispered, "This is where I began." In the distance, a siren wailed then faded. She jogged slowly, each step steady and free. Jasmine's voice echoed faintly in her memory, "You're more than their story." Maya stopped at the finish line, tears mixing with sweat. She said, "I am my own ending." Behind her, a billboard still bore a faded image of her smiling face, half covered by peeling scandal headlines. Maya turned away, walking into darkness without looking back. The city exhaled, its lights flickering like distant applause. The world would tell her tale for years, but only she would know its truth.